We'll hear from area EMS workers about the recent uptick in COVID transfers.
Senators vote to begin debate on a bipartisan infrastructure bill. I'm Skyler Henry on Capitol Hill with the details and the multi-trillion-dollar partisan proposal that could slow down the bill's arrival to the president's desk.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Ambulance crews see an increase in COVID patients, increasing their overall call volume. This is KOAM News at 5. It's an issue they saw at the end of last year when numbers were high. Then numbers dropped as vaccines were rolled out. Well, now with the Delta variant spreading in the 4 states, our numbers are back up. A Mercy ambulance crew out of Cassville had to bring a patient to the Joplin area today, their second of the day. The crew's paramedic describes the days as hectic and tiresome.
It's hard. It is for sure. Seeing patients, obviously we don't want anybody to be sick, but it is our job, so it's something that's expected. But it is hard sometimes, and we were talking earlier how we just have to it's our job, we just have to do it, and it is what it is.
Ambulances all over the region are having to transport patients farther and farther away as hospitals fill up. Tonight at 6, we're going to hear more about the impact COVID is having this time around on EMS services. The Carl Junction School District hosted a back-to-school vaccine clinic today. The clinic offered the required vaccinations for kids returning to school, but also offered COVID-19 vaccines to students and parents. While there's no current mandate for students to get the COVID vaccine before returning to class this fall, officials say it's still something to be seriously considered.
With just how active they are, as social as they are, that really can help stop the spread, among their peers and family.
Tonight at 6, we're going to hear from one parent on why she and her family decided to get the vaccine. President Biden announced new protocols today for federal workers and laid out the next steps to get more Americans vaccinated. The administration says the more than 2 million civilian federal workers plus contractors will need to show proof of vaccination or face strict protocols such as regular testing. According to the CDC, nearly 70% of American adults have received at least one shot of a COVID vaccine, with the Delta variant fueling a summer uptick in cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. The Missouri Attorney General's office has completed its investigation into whether the Joplin City Council violated the state's sunshine law. The AG's office said received complaints last year that council members had gathered for dinners prior to formal meetings. The complaints claimed the meetings should either be public or not happen, since there was no way to know whether city business was discussed. Well, now the AG's office tells KOAM News its investigation found no violations of the Sunshine Law. However, the AG did provide guidance to the city on how to better handle those dinners. The Humane Society of Missouri says its Animal Cruelty Task Force has rescued 21 dogs in McDonald County living in a, quote, appalling situation. The Missouri Department of Agriculture used a court order to inspect the property of a licensed breeder. The society claims some dogs were in extremely poor health and that there was evidence others had recently died. Humane Society of Missouri President Kathy Warnick says, quote, these dogs have been living in horrific conditions. The breeder's neglect is inhumane and utterly reprehensible. Nick Kelly joins us. The stifling heat continues, Nick.
And we have to put up with it for a few more days now before we thankfully see some relief from the heat later on down the road. But it's another day where it may look nice with a few passing clouds from 7th and Range Line. But these excessive heat warnings and heat advisories have actually been extended at the very latest until tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock. So these will definitely be sticking around as we get the weekend started. So even though there's nothing going on, it is all about the heat. We're in the mid 90s right now, a couple spots around Yates Center and Neodesha. Actually sitting near 97, but the high dew points makes it feel like a 99 to almost 110 across the region. Like last night, though, these numbers will drop as we continue on through this evening, but still near 80 by midnight. Back into the mid 70s. We got another hot and humid day for tomorrow, Dow, but thankfully relief still on the way. Forecast in a bit.
All right, see you then. Legislators on both sides of the aisle say infrastructure legislation now making its way through Congress will help boost the economy. The trick is getting it passed through the House and Senate. Reporter Skylar Henry has details from Capitol Hill.
Republicans and Democrats agree a more than $500 billion investment in America's roads and bridges will grow the economy.
A massive investment in public infrastructure will create tens of thousands of good-paying jobs. That's just what the doctor ordered.
Two-thirds of senators voted Wednesday to begin debate on a bipartisan infrastructure bill. It invests $110 billion on America's roads and bridges. Almost the same amount would be spent on rail and public transit projects, and billions more would upgrade the country's broadband internet, airports, drinking water, and electrical grid.
At a time when Washington seems broken, this group of members behind me came together, along with others, and decided we were going to do something great for our country.
In addition to the physical infrastructure bill, Democrats are pushing ahead with a $3.5 trillion budget resolution, which they are trying to pass without Republican support.
We need to help American families keep up with the exorbitant costs of child care, health care, housing, college, and more.
But some moderate Democrats say they're uncomfortable with the price tag. Kirsten Sinema told the Arizona Republic that she supports many of the goals in the budget bill, but, quote, I have also made it clear that while I will support beginning this process, I do not support a bill that costs $3.5 trillion. That drew a swift rebuke from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who tweeted, good luck tanking your own party's investment on child care, climate action, and infrastructure while presuming you'll survive a 3-vote House margin. Progressive Democrats in the House say they will not vote for the infrastructure bill unless the Senate also passes the budget bill. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Senator Schumer says he wants to see both the infrastructure bill and the budget resolution passed before the Senate takes its 5-week recess beginning on August 9th. Nearly a year ago, 9 service members died in a training exercise involving a land and sea assault vehicle. Well, now the families of the victims are taking legal action against the makers of the vehicle and calling on the military to stop using them. They claim the vehicles have defective doors, which turn them into a death trap. Current laws prevent the families from filing a lawsuit against the military, otherwise it would have been considered. Florida's Gulf Coast is being hit hard this summer by what's known as a red tide, an algae bloom that can kill fish and make it hard for humans to breathe. It stretches nearly 100 miles along the state's west coast and is hurting businesses during the peak of the summer tourism season. Red tides do naturally occur in Florida, but scientists believe warming ocean waters due to climate change may be making them more frequent. Still ahead, the push toward green energy.
They're learning to install solar panels on their own apartment buildings. I'm Michael George with a groundbreaking program training public housing residents for green jobs.
And next in Health Watch, the Delta variant is making COVID cases rise across the globe, but the UK is seeing a different trend. Topping Health Watch today, the Food and Drug Administration has officially designated the first generic type of insulin. It's called Semglee, and it was approved to be sold in the U.S. last year. But the move by the FDA allows the product to be marketed as a generic version of a biological product. This could be a help to some diabetics as insulin prices have been rising steadily due to little competition. The FDA says Semglee is a safe and less expensive alternative for treating the disease. The Delta variant is causing a spike in COVID cases all around the world. Many countries are breaking record numbers of new infections and deaths, while something different is happening to cases in the UK. Ian Lee reports.
Tokyo hits yet another record number of new daily coronavirus cases as the Olympic Games continue. A Japanese official said Thursday they've never experienced a rise in infections like this. Around the world, the Delta variant is fueling the surge. Russian officials blame it for a record number of new daily deaths. While down in Australia, Sydney has turned into a ghost town. Officials extended the city's lockdown after a sharp rise in cases.
We can only assume that things are likely to get worse before they get better.
The UK fully reopened earlier this month despite a spike in cases, but now new infections are plummeting. And scientists here don't know why. Could it be fewer large sporting events, people not wanting to get tested, or as some have suggested, the UK is reaching herd immunity?
It is very, very important that we don't allow ourselves to run away with premature conclusions. People have got to remain very cautious.
But in Africa, many countries are still struggling with the pandemic. In Senegal, hospitals are so overwhelmed, officials fear the healthcare system is on the verge of collapse. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
The U.S. recently announced the delivery of more than 1 million vaccine doses via the UN's COVAX global initiative aimed at supplying low and middle income countries. A new study finds eating fruits and vegetables that contain a certain naturally occurring compound can lower the risk of cognitive decline. Researchers say strawberries, oranges, peppers, and apples all contain flavonoids, which are considered powerful antioxidants that can help maintain thinking skills as you get older. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, millions of people could be facing eviction when a moratorium expires this weekend.
But first, we'll break down a few more hot and humid days and the much needed break from the heat down the road. That's up next. This heat and humidity has been sticking around for far too long, at least I think for many of you I can speak for, and we definitely need the break from the heat and humidity. It's still on the way, but it did not come for today. After we topped out in the mid-90s yesterday, as high as 96 degrees, we dropped back 73, 74, 75 degrees as advertised, a brief respite from the heat and humidity. But we wasted no time jumping back into the fray once again. At least 95 is the hottest we've been so far at Joppa Regional, so it was definitely a hot and humid day. Didn't feel good to be outside, but it didn't look bad at least, with much of the day staying dry with partly to mostly sunny skies. The bad news is the excessive heat warnings for much of the region now will continue at the very least until 9 o'clock tomorrow night, and even the heat advisory is in effect for everybody else. Those, I think, could be extended until Saturday, so we got to hold on to the heat and humidity until Saturday. Then the changes, more than welcome changes, will be ready to roll on in. Mostly sunny skies, some passing cloud cover in spots like in Joplin, for example, but it's hot. It's 95. Dew point is 73, makes it feel like 104 degrees outside right now. And it's the same again across the entire region, but pushing as high as 98 in Chanute right now, 93 in Henderson, 92 in Milnette. But again, it is all about the humidity. These dew points ranging between 70 and 78 degrees. So these numbers going beyond the top of our dew point tracker scales. So you factor in those numbers, it feels like 108 in Parsons, 107 in Chanute, 102 in Neosho. It feels like the triple digits everywhere. But like last night, as we go deeper into the evening and certainly the overnight, these numbers are going to drop, but we'll be still near 80 by midnight before we drop back into the mid-70s for tomorrow morning. Not a lot happening here, that is definitely for sure. And the bigger picture shows a frontal boundary actually draped just to the north. It doesn't do anything for us until this starts to sweep on in late Saturday. Still, though, it's going to hold off as long as this upper level ridge is still in play. Once this starts to break down on Saturday, though, that is when we're going to see the more of the welcome changes ready to roll on in. So even though it's going to be very hot and humid throughout the rest of the evening, we will keep things quiet through the overnight, maybe some passing clouds at times. But I think the coolest we can go is 75 degrees to start the morning out with the south breeze at 5. Going through the day tomorrow, another day where it may look nice, but won't feel nice. 92 by lunchtime and pushing afternoon highs near 96. But you factor in the humidity, it's going to once again feel like 102 to 108 degrees for tomorrow, and these numbers will stick around again for Saturday, but that is when the more of the welcome changes roll on in. The upper ridge starts retreating to the west. The cold front will finally push on through with thunderstorm chances Saturday night going into Sunday morning, and then we'll enjoy the cooler side of the jet. Look at what it does for us as we roll into the 7-day forecast. 86 on Sunday, and we'll stay in the mid-80s with hot lows in the mid-60s throughout much of next week. Before that break in the heat comes our way, Dow. Alert days in place for the next few days because of the heat and humidity. I don't think any severe weather will come our way with our thunderstorm chances, but something I'll keep an eye on.
Yeah, the rain certainly will be welcome if we get it.
Along with the break in the heat, that's for sure.
You bet. Thanks, Nick. Coming up, the push to train public housing tenants skills in green energy. First, though, we honor a local veteran. Rick Warden served in the U.S. Navy from 1967 to 71. Carthage, Missouri native was stationed in Vietnam and Korea, and we salute Petty Officer First Class Rick Warden, a four-state hero. More positive economic news tops today's Consumer Watch. The total size of the economy has now surpassed its pre-pandemic level. Today's report from the Commerce Department shows the U.S. economy grew at a solid 6.5% annual rate last quarter, in another sign that the nation has achieved a sustained recovery from the pandemic recession. With consumers and businesses expected to keep spending, 2021 could give us the strongest calendar year growth since 1984. That would be a striking bounce back from the economy's 3.4% contraction last year. That was the worst decline since the 1940s. Millions of Americans could be at risk of eviction in just 2 days. That's when federal protections created during the pandemic are set to expire. Congress allotted more than $46 billion to help Americans affected by the pandemic pay their rent. But just a fraction of the money has reached those who need it most. Nearly half of states in the country have used less than 5% of their federal relief money. Many Americans who lost work during the pandemic are considering new careers. And an environmental program is giving people a helping hand with free training for green jobs. Michael George shows us how.
Sarah Bejo just made a huge life change. She got a job installing solar panels, even though she has no experience in the field.
It was a bit intimidating at first. It's a whole new industry.
Sarah was a building manager in New York. Then the pandemic hit.
I got furloughed due to COVID.
Sarah heard about a program called Community Power, started by the city of New York along with several environmental groups like We Act and Solar One. It trains public housing residents at no cost to become certified solar panel installers.
Solar jobs it's a hot market right now, and our public housing residents are a great talent pipeline.
So what are we looking at right here?
This is a completed array on the northern side of this building here.
The panels Sarah installs go right on the roof of New York's public housing buildings. So not only are people out of work being trained for green jobs, but the power generated by these panels is going right back into low-income communities. The people who live in these buildings get a savings of about $120 a year on their energy bills.
It did not come out of our budget. Instead, we lease our roofs. And with the revenue that's generated from these solar leases, we can invest it back into public housing.
For Sarah, the paycheck has been a godsend, and she's excited about her new career.
It's the future. It's solar. It has been so rewarding in the fact that I feel like I'm making a difference every day I come to work.
Using the power of people to bring power to the people. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
The program is still relatively small, with panels installed on 40 buildings so far. But if it works in New York, organizers hope it will energize other cities to do the same. Final check of the forecast next.
Salon service is provided by the Wild Side in Pittsburgh for over 25 years.
Closed captioning on KOAM TV is sponsored by Aaron Sachs & Associates, proud partner of the St. Louis Cardinals.
The CBS Evening News is next. And then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to hear more from area EMS workers about the uptick in COVID-related calls they receive. Plus, a company in Parsons, Kansas hosts a guest speaker to discuss the pros and cons of the coronavirus vaccines. And Kansas City's mayor announces he's reinstating a mask mandate. Stay with us. CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Nick Kelly, it remains dangerously hot out there a bit longer.
Yeah, we're going to have to be a little patient, Dal, but relief is on the way. Until it comes, We have alert days for tomorrow and Saturday because the heat and high humidity is going to stick around for that period of time. 96 tomorrow, could feel as hot as 108 or 109 tomorrow afternoon, 95 on Saturday. Then the front rolls in with thunderstorm chances Saturday evening into Sunday morning. I don't think anything will be severe with those, but we'll still watch those. But behind that front now, welcome relief. Highs back in the mid-80s from Sunday through much of next week.
Yeah, that front is going to feel great.
It will.
Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. And of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. See you then. Let's make it a great evening.